Okay, I'd like to call to order the City of Apache Junction Council meeting to order. The invocation will be led by Vice Mayor Rizzi and the pledge by Councilmember Nesser.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege of being gathered here today to do the city's business on behalf of our constituents. We ask that each of us be guided by you in the decisions we make that will affect others and not by any personal agenda or ego. We ask to be humble in our disagreements and that we never forget we are here to serve the people of this beautiful community. Father, we continue to pray for the citizens of Ukraine as we ask for your protection for all of our first responders, those serving in our military, and all of their family members. We ask that they be brought home safely each and every day. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, just before we start the roll call, I just want to let everyone know that Member Kelly Grimmel has submitted her resignation on March 31st, so now her seat is also vacant. Roll call for the rest of us.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mayor Wilson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Rizzi,
Present.
Councilmember Evans,
Here.
Councilmember Nesser,
Present.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Here.
You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. Consent agenda. Do we have a motion for the consent agenda?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that the consent agenda be accepted as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rizzi.
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser,
Yes.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Motion passes, Your Honor.
Okay, awards and presentations and proclamations. I have two proclamations here. First one we're going to do is the National Library Week. Whereas today's libraries are more important about what they can do with and for their communities and have a long served as trusted institutions, often the heart of our cities and towns and schools and academic campuses. Whereas libraries serve people of all ages, interest and backgrounds, providing resources of technology, programs, services, and space to engage in lifelong learning. Whereas libraries are a resource for all, regardless of race, ethnicity, creed, abilities, sexual orientation, gender identification, or social economic status. Whereas America is celebrating National Library Week, including April 5th as National Library Workers' Day, and immeasurable contributions made by library workers, April 6th as National Outreach Day, showing library services are not limited to their physical location, and April 7th, Take Action for Libraries Day, encouraging community support for libraries. Now, therefore, it be resolved that I, Chip Wilson, Mayor of the City of Apache Junction, proclaim National Library Week, April 3rd to the 9th, 2022, in the City of Apache Junction. And during this week, we encourage all residents to visit our library and take 5 minutes strategic planning library survey and explore all that the library has to offer.
Pam is here from the library. Pam, can you please come up?
Oh, there she is.
Yep. Thank you, Matt, for getting some photos. Al is out today.
Go, Pam.
Don't scare us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
for proclaiming this week National Library Week and Library Week in Apache Junction, because libraries are truly special places. They have something to offer all people, and better yet, all library materials, services, programs, and classes are free of charge. This year's theme is Connect with Your Library, and today more than ever, libraries are connecting their communities with broadband services, computers, programs, classes, and books, but most importantly, they are connecting us to each other. Tomorrow on National Outreach Day, staff from Apache Junction Library will be out around town in the mobile library to make connections and hand out free books. So be on the lookout for our bright mobile library van. And Thursday is National Take Action for Libraries Day, which is timely, since as you spoke of, we are currently asking all community members to complete a quick 5-minute library survey so that we can best serve you in the future. You can see the library's website or our Facebook page for a link to that survey, and the survey will be closing on Thursday. And finally, I just want to take a short moment to thank our library staff, who is amazing in every way possible. They have exceptional customer service skills, and they work diligently every day to provide the resources, services, and education that connects our community. Thank you for all of your support.
Thank you. Okay, National Public Safety Telecommunications. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas the entire community can appreciate and recognize our public safety communication professionals who have impacted the lives of many, and whereas we admire professionals who have dedicated their lives to helping others by being the vital link between the community and the emergency services that bears tremendous responsibility and dedication every day, one call at a time, making the world a better place. And whereas our community's police telecommunications officers are dedicated to meeting the technology demands placed upon them in a rapidly changing world, even if it means making personal sacrifices during these troubled times. And whereas police telecommunication officers are the behind-the-scenes heroes who make the differences in our lives of others. Now, therefore, I, Chip Wilson, Mayor, City of Apache Junction, do hereby proclaim April 10th to April 16th, 2022 as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. And Chief Pulley?
We have staff here as well from our telecommunication office. Lisa Immenizer. I think a few others. They're being shy.
Yeah.
No.
There they go. We have over 70 years, right, of service between the three of our staff here. It's remarkable.
So this was the noisy group out in.
They were the
beforehand.
They were the yeah.
Someone want to say something? No. Okay, regional intergovernment updates. Do we have any announcements of the current events? Council?
Current events are our updates.
Well, this is
Council.
intergovernmental updates.
Okay. The only announcement that I have is the Apache Junction CDC has set October 8th, I know that's a long way out, as our next Make a Difference Day. And we're looking for projects, whether it be in neighborhoods, a specific property. We'd like to have some interaction with our youth council.
See if they could pick a certain project, and just keep your eyes open and see something that needs some dressing up or attention, and we'll be glad to look at it.
Nope. Well, I want to do one thing, it's not necessarily an intergovernmental agreement, but we had this Saturday, we had the battle of the badges between our fire department and our police department, and it was enjoyed by everybody, even though our police department decided to come in second place, but we still they're still number one in our hearts. City Manager's report.
Thank you, Your Honor. Bryant Powell, City Manager. Before we jump into the announcement of current events, I want to share a little bit about Troy Mullender. He called me. We knew this might happen. His daughter, Maddie, is the star pitcher for her high school team. And Troy actually ended his service last Thursday, and the way council meetings went, we have him on for tonight to honor him. We'll find another time to do that, but I do want to share a couple things about Troy. So Troy served with us 37 years, and under, from the beginnings of our department. And he's a good friend of mine. He's done remarkable work with our city. He is one of the very first graduates of Apache Junction High School, was on the state football team, wrestler and football player at EAC, Eastern Arizona College, and NAU, Northern Arizona University. I joked with him because I told him we were going to get him a Green Bay Packer football that we could sign, because he's a huge, and he even says, I'm like the Troy Aikman leaving now. But we got him a Dallas Cowboy football signature, and we'd love for each of you to sign that tonight. Now this gives us an opportunity to do that. So when we get done tonight, I'd love to have you sign that and offer him best wishes. We just think the world of him, and he has seen us progress and change so much over the years. And Your Honor, if that's okay, I asked Troy if we could find a time that we could present this to him, take a photo, and make sure we get this to the community so they could see that. Troy was very much excited about that, and he was excited to come, but I could hear him in the background. He said it was going to extra innings, and he just didn't want to leave Maddie out there, so.
And that's one of the things that he said, that he told me that he's going to be doing. He's going to be visiting ball fields with his daughter all this coming summer, so.
Yeah, she's a sophomore. She's doing great. She's got 2 more years, and really he's looking forward to that. And she's on a club team as well, and I'm close with Renee, his wife, or his family, and we've known them, and they're really excited about where that's going. So, other thing I'd love to share tonight is we received at the city manager's office and at the city clerk's department the following letter on March 31st. It's with heavy heart that I submit this letter of resignation. As you all know, I made a decision to run for the justice of the peace, and therefore I'm legally required to resign from city council. I've truly enjoyed serving on the city council, and I'm so grateful that the people of this community believed in me enough to allow me to serve in this capacity. It's been an honor and a privilege. It is my hope that I'll be able to continue to serve the people in this community. And then some more, and then thank you, Kelly Gremmel. So, Your Honor, we have had a tradition. I have several bags here of making sure our council members have their nameplates and a thank you, and also their wonderful photos. Some you love, some you don't. But is it okay, Mayor, if I just give this to Kelly? I think, Kelly, are you here? If you come up and I can give this to you.
Yes.
And we can say thank you again.
I also want to say thank you for your service as well.
Your Honor. So here's I know you really wanted
Oh, yeah, I really did.
So thank you.
so much.
We appreciate your service.
I don't want to say anything because I'll probably start crying, so anyway, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Matt, if you could cue up a few of the slides. I want to share something that we have a couple things coming up that I want to share, and then maybe, Matt, you can share a couple. Go to the Battle of the Badges. We kind of talked about that. Is that going to mess you up? I don't know where that's at. And then also I was invited by Apache Junction Little League to throw out the first pitch. Okay, here's the pictures. Those are the victors. Okay. So, of course, we're very sensitive. We play a wonderful local recreational kickball deal and enjoy doing that very much. And, it's called the Bad News Bryants, and my team goes 0-3 every time. And we have a great team. And police do really great there, and they get a chance this time take on the fire department, and we're really happy this is able to happen, and they did great. And then on my invitation, I got to be able to be with, so as we work in this community with our families and come out of this coronavirus, we had, you know, and I don't want to say we got in a little rut, but for 2 years, when you don't get used to signing your kids up and you don't remember you're supposed to sign up in December, we had a little bit of a lull on numbers of people last year for Little League, and the president and their board out there, and they had a huge response. We got 2 girls teams, which is back where we've always been, a good minors program, good majors program. And my dad was the president of Little League in our little town I grew up, and I saw how much work it takes. It is really interesting. When I got a chance to talk to everybody, there's very few things in life anymore where geography matters. It matters in city government, and it matters in Apache Junction, or in Little League, the Little League organization. These kids that are in our Little League are not from Santan. They show their birth certificate, and they show their address. So what I was sharing with them, the D-backs gave us a really great grant, and the city of AJ matched that so that we could have new lighting and then we can have a new scoreboard. And as part of that, they all got uniforms, and every single one of their uniforms is a D-back uniform. It's not always the case in different Little Leagues. But I said, hey guys, and gals, these are all D-backs, you're all the same team, but eventually you're all prospectors, or you're eventually all part of the same team. We're all part of Apache Junction family. And so I had a good time being out there. We threw the first pitch, it was high. It's not the same, it wasn't a very good one, but it was great. And so they gave us a really neat blanket, and on it's a Little League emblem, and it has all the youth that are playing this year. And they're hoping to keep growing the program and see it growing. So, and Mayor, you got to throw the first pitch too.
Yes, unfortunately, there's no picture of me throwing the first
Yeah, I don't
pitch.
know
Wait a minute, that was not right.
Well, next year, keep your arm loose, and they'll
Okay.
ask you again. That concludes my part of this. Matt, did you have a few others
Yeah, Mr.
current event
Mayor,
slides?
Yeah, members of the council, Al Bravo couldn't be with us tonight, so we asked that I just share 2 announcements. One is of the Kiwanis Shred-a-thon on Saturday, May 14th, 9 to 11 a.m., right out here in the City Hall parking lot, 300 East Superstition Boulevard, and you see the cost there listed as well. And also Earth Day celebration at Horizon Health and Wellness, Saturday, April 23rd, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And you can see all that information listed for families and others, whoever's interested to come celebrate this day. So those are the 2 announcements we have tonight.
Your Honor, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Public hearings. This is the presentation on land use assumptions and planned and development fees, draft report. Rudy. Oh, okay, excuse
Your
me.
Honor, let me introduce Carson Bice. So this is Rudy. You want to come up and do the introduction? So Rudy Esquivius is our acting Development Services Director. Rudy, can you give everyone an introduction on the development fee process and where we're at in the process?
Absolutely. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, of course, my name is Rudy Esquivius, Interim Director of Development Services. This evening, we're going to have a presentation from Carson Bice, who is our consultant, helping us draft our new development fees in light of all the growth that we are about to experience with the new master plan communities down south. We felt it was time for a development fee update. Our last development fees, I think, were adopted in 2019, and Carson has helped us through a couple of these processes. This development fee process follows a very careful timeline. Right now, I think we're probably in about the middle of the process. We came to you for a presentation on January 18th with the first draft. That was not a public hearing, it was discussion. This evening, we will have a public hearing regarding basically what is our first official draft of proposed development fees. Yesterday, earlier today, we had a presentation with the stakeholders, including a representative from the Arizona Home Builders Association of Central Arizona and a couple of other folks in the development community. And Carson did a great presentation. I think we got most of their questions answered. I think they are more or less happy with the proposed fees, and particularly Jackson Mall, who represents a number of developers. His comment was that he didn't think they would have any more comments or concerns with regard to our proposed fees, and you don't need to hear any more from me. Carson's going to give us a presentation, and he's available to answer questions. And of course, after Carson's presentation, Mr. Mayor, if you would please open it up for any public comment.
Okay.
Carson?
Carson.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. It's nice to see you for the second night in a row.
Yes.
See, not that one. Give me a second, Carson. Thought we had them open on there, but read down. Is that the one?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
I think so. Okay, an overview of the presentation. We're going to brief you all on development fee basics, as well as the audience for their edification, talk about the land use assumptions, the IIP, or Infrastructure Improvements Plan, which covers the libraries, parks and recreation, police, and streets. Talk about the fee summary, or what the full freight of the fees are, so to speak, and where we are on the adoption timeline. First of all, in terms of impact fees, it's important to note that they are not a revenue-raising mechanism. In fact, they are actually a land use regulation, and they're designed to meet growth-related infrastructure needs. We have to make sure that new development pays their proportionate share. We have to also show nexus, which is need. And we also have to make sure that fee payers receive a benefit. And the way we ensure that is through evaluating the need to have either geographic service areas, but also with accounting and expenditure controls. In Arizona, we have an Impact Fee Act that governs the calculation of impact fees. It includes 3 separate integrated products. The first is the land use assumptions, which covers a period of 10 years for non-utility infrastructure. We also have a second document called the Infrastructure Improvement Plan, also called the IIP. It's limited to 10 years for non-utilities, 15 years for utilities. And then we actually have the development fee calculations. In terms of levels of service, we are governed by ensuring that the fees do not cover or pay for a level of service greater than what our community is providing today. If we do decide to raise that level of service, you have to identify non-development fee revenue to cover that growth share. And that's important to note because we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight with 2 of the fees. There are some limitations on what the Act refers to as necessary public services. This is the second go-round we've had under the new Act, so those of you who were here in 2012 may remember this. But one of the things we're limited to are parks at 30 acres in size or less, even though we may have parks greater in size than that. Libraries are limited to 10,000 square feet, and public safety, we're limited to just the bricks and mortar for station space. We can't include regional training facilities, et cetera. So there's also a very detailed adoption process. So the first round is adopting and advertising the land use assumptions in the infrastructure improvement plans, which is where we are at this point. Once those are adopted, we would go to round 2 and actually adopt the development fees. And there's a chance during that advertised period to modify based on input and discussion. We also prepare the revenue projections and required offsets. So I'm not going to bore you with methodologies, but the way that we calculate impact fees is we look to the past, we look to the present, and we look to the future. The past is where we've oversized infrastructure and new growth's going to pay for their fair share of that. When we look to the present, we call that an incremental expansion, or you'll hear me use the term consumption-based approach during the presentation. And that's a very formulaic approach in terms of where we are in terms of square feet per person, in terms of libraries, acres per person for parks, and then what does it cost us to buy an acre of land or improve an acre of land, et cetera. And so we're basically expanding the system as growth occurs. And then there's also a plan-based approach which looks to the future, and that usually reflects some sort of adopted CIP or master plan. And with a plan-based approach, we do have to guard against that idea of growth paying for more than their fair share, where if we use that consumption-based approach, we don't, because it's based on what we have in the ground today in terms of assets. So we have to pay close attention to any growth shares under that plan-based approach and identify revenue to cover any increases in levels of service. We also have to evaluate the need for credits, and credits are designed, and in Arizona we call them offsets. It's designed to make sure that new development doesn't pay twice. Once through the development fee, and then again through another source of revenue, whether it's property or sales tax that goes toward debt service, or if you are dedicating a certain revenue source, whether it's your secondary property tax or sales tax or highway user revenue, et cetera, for the same kind of infrastructure that I paid the fee for. So let's talk a little bit about the development projections, which are the cornerstone of the land use projection. They are, from a non-residential perspective, they are based on the projections provided by MAG, or the Maricopa Association of Governments. And then the residential projections are based on conversations with staff and what we know about, in particular, development units 1 and 2 in Superstition Vistas. So in summary, we are projecting a 10-year increase in peak population of about 30,000 new residents. Housing units, we're projecting about 13,000 or 13,100 new units. Employment, about 3,800 new jobs, and that equates to about 1.75 million square feet of non-residential development. Now let's move into the IIP components for the libraries. So the components here are facilities. The collection is not included, not eligible. The 10-year demand, if we look at the current levels of service and then apply that to the projection of development, you would need to build an additional 12,000 square feet of library space at an estimated cost of about $7.2 million. Now, the city could choose to build a 20,000 square foot library, but new development would only pay for the first 12,000 square feet, right? So we issued that draft report in January 18th, which Ben Griffin from our office presented to you guys. And there's been a few changes to that report based on feedback and conversations we've had with the stakeholder group. And so there has been a adjustment to the level of service in response to comments related to the act that limits new libraries to 10,000 square feet. And so we're proposing a 10,000 square foot branch in Superstition Vistas, and then development in the rest of the city would generate the need for about 2,000 square feet. And that results in a draft, and again, these are draft fees now because there could be changes to the IIP, but the proposed fee at this point is $550, and that's a decrease of about $454 for a single-family unit. And I'm just going to use the single-family unit as our unit of comparison because that's typically what we see in most communities where the attention is paid to. And the reason for that is if you remember from the last development fee study, we did use a plan-based, or excuse me, a cost recovery where new development was paying into their fair share of the debt service related to the current main library branch. And so since we changed methodologies, there is that reduction. Now, moving on to parks and recreational facilities, there are two components. One is park amenities. We're using that consumption-based or incremental expansion approach. And we have a plan-based component for trails, which is a new component in the fee this year. The 10-year demand is 14 additional amenities at a cost of approximately $3 million. The plan-based approach for trails includes 14 miles of trails at a cost of $3 million. Now, when we look at your existing level of service for trails, we see that there is the growth share, or excuse me, the non-growth share is much larger than the growth share, which means that the plan is elevating the level of service for trails within the city. So we have to identify additional revenues to backfill the IIP, if you will. And so we anticipate that would be in the form of grants. And so the growth share is about $740 million. The non-growth share is $2.2 million. And the changes since the January 18th presentation is that the community center level of service is based on 3,000 square feet versus the 40,000 square feet because the Act limits it to 3,000. And we removed the community center due to limited demand from the revised level of service. So if we look at the proposed fee, it does represent an increase of about a third. The proposed fee for single-family units is $1,707, which is an increase of about $539 per unit. And then moving on to police, we've got three components here. We have a new police station, so we're using a plan-based approach. We're using a consumption-based approach for vehicles and the communications equipment. And when we look at the 10-year demand, the planned facilities, 51,500 square feet at a cost of about $28 million. The growth share is slightly over 50%, which is $14.4 million. The non-growth share is $13.8 million, so that'll have to be funded from revenue other than development fees. There's demand for an additional $4.1 million in police vehicles and an additional $1.1 million in communications equipment. And there's been no change in this fee since the 2018, or IIP and assumptions, as well as the fee since 2018. So when we look at the proposed fees based on the draft IIP, it does result in a significant increase of over 100%. It goes from $609 to $1,229, which is an increase of $620 per single-family unit. And finally, streets. The component here is for arterial improvements. We're using the consumption-based approach. That 10-year demand is 4.7 lane miles at a cost of almost $9 million. And changes since the January 18th presentation includes a removal of the right-of-way cost, removal of bike lane cost, and so that results in a decrease of about $100,000 in the cost per lane mile at $1.9 million versus $2 million. So the proposed street fee is right around where we were before. It's $3,250 per single-family unit, and that's an increase of about $99. You may ask why that increases, but the other two residential fees decrease, and that's because there's a new edition of the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual, and so those trip rates went down relative to what happened with the single-family trip rates. So that's the main difference in the fees that go around. So finally, if we add up, what's the full freight on a single-family home under this IIP if adopted for the four categories? It's $6,736, which is an increase of about $804 over your current single-family fee structure. The multifamily fee goes down slightly, and again, that's because of the revised ITE rates for transportation. And then the recreational vehicle fee goes up slightly at $251. And so with that, I will move on to the adoption timeline. As Rudy mentioned, we are somewhat in the middle of this. On the April 5th meeting, where we had the second stakeholder meeting, and we're now having the Land Use and Infrastructure Improvement Plan public hearing. From there, we would then pivot to May 17th is the targeted adoption date for the land use assumptions in IIP. We would then advertise the development fee report on May 19th. July 5th would be the anticipated target date for a public hearing. And then 30 days after that, we would move to adoption, which is anticipated at August 16th. And then there's a 75-day waiting period until the fees would go into effect, and so they would go into effect October 31st. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to blame it on all the allergy medication I'm taking, and I'm going to stick with that excuse. Okay. But when we were going over this last night, for some reason, I thought this was just for the new development. And then I remembered back in the cobwebs of my brain that they have to be for everybody. So this would be for Superstition Vistas as well as any new development up on this site. Is that correct?
Yes and no. So what we talked about last night was the fiscal impact analysis of Development Unit 1 and 2 of Superstition Vistas, and that included all the revenue that would be generated as well as the operating expenses as well as the capital expenses. This is the development fee study, which is citywide, but it's only for capital, and so these fees would apply to any new residential permit, any new apartment permit, any new retail activity, office activity, industrial activity, et cetera. Now, Having said that, development units 1 and 2 do have their own specific development agreement where, for instance, they are providing the commensurate level of service for parks and roads. So
Okay.
as a result of the development agreement, they don't pay those 2 fees, but they do pay $800 for Ironwood Road debt service, but they would pay the parks, or excuse me, the police and library development fee because it is truly a citywide level of service.
So we just kind of have Peter and Paul talking back and forth about up here, because there's no development agreement for our roads, but it is down there, that one fee will only apply up here because they have their own, as far as repairs and new roads is what I'm talking about, correct?
For new roads, and we have a community facility district that's set up for that growth and for that is correct, but not for maintenance. For maintenance,
way-
it's gonna be all us, yeah.
The way to think about it is the IIP, or the road improvements, rather than the 4.7 that I showed you, if there wasn't that development agreement and they weren't building their own roads, the need may be, and I'm just making this up, the need may be 10 lane miles.
Right.
But they're providing that other 6.
Right.
So so they're basically getting credits because, you know, if you had a citywide fee, let's say we had no development agreement, and the developers of Superstition Vistas built you lane miles that are part of the impact fee, legally, you would have to give them that offset or credit.
Right.
And so that's essentially, it's the same thing.
Yeah, it was just kind of confusing for me because we referred to them.
Right.
But then I said, doesn't it have to apply for everybody? But now I understand how the roads come in for anything outside of those 2 developments. Thank you.
Okay. So this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on this? Yes.
George Schroeder, 2444 West Virginia. Again, medications. So, I like what the gentleman said. It's very accurate, very thorough, inclusive. Now, as I understand, we're going to have to pay some of that money for development back at some point in time, 10, 20, 30 years. We're going to end up having to pay some back to these developers. I forgot what the reasons are, but we're going to end up having to pay money back to them through our taxes or whatever. So we are not getting a rational or our share of this fund for at least the streets in my area. I know it's a whole different subject, but this money does apply to my streets. So later I will talk about it in the call of the public. But as far as this money is generated, and has been generated, I've been asking our managers, find the money, find the money, find the money, find the money. They haven't found the money. There's the money. We need to increase it. I'm not going to complain if some brand new builder or apartment complex, if they pay more. That's not my problem. My problem is my streets. They're being destroyed, and again, I will do it in the call of the public, by 5 trucks a week, 1 every day, garbage trucks on my street. I've tried to talk to Mr. Powell. I've talked to Steve Herring yesterday. We're going to try and look at it. It's a non-answer. But anyway, we need more money from this calculation. And who's ever doing the calculations other than Carson, they need to get their head on straight because we're not being served. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak on this subject? Okay, I'll close this. Is this, because we don't have a motion then?
Correct, so this is,
It's not a motion?
no motion,
Okay,
this is just
okay.
part of that
Think so.
process. There's many, a couple more public meetings and.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll close this whole thing, that part of the public hearings. Okay, we have no old business, no new business. Council direction to staff. Bryant.
Thank you, Your Honor. For council direction to staff, staff is ready to receive your direction on filling the 2 vacancies. And over the last couple meetings, we've gone over a potential process that you all maybe want to go through. We've left that at your chair. And there's really no other further discussion that we have at this point, other than to go ahead and start moving forward to fill them. I think the law says that we have to fill them
As quickly as possible.
quickly or something like that. But yeah, that's the agenda item tonight, and we'll turn it to you for direction.
Okay, we have discussion on this.
No.
Okay, can I have a motion on this?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that the following direction to staff on the appointment of the 2 council vacancies be given. Number 1, the process shall be very similar to the annual board and commissions, talent bank, and member selection process. Starting on April 11th, 2022, staff will facilitate acceptance of online applications for the 2 vacant council seats. The questions will be tailored from the board and the commission talent bank application questions. The application deadline shall be April 29th, 2022 by 5 p.m. No exceptions for late submittals will be permitted whatsoever. That was in caps, just in case anybody questioned. Number 2, staff will compile the application submittals, print them, organize them into hard copy binders, and provide them to the mayor and council the week of May 8th, 2022. Staff will also make them available online for the public. All information submitted to the city online is deemed open and available for public inspection with no redactions. Staff will schedule a work session on May 16th, 2022, at which time council shall interview the candidates that council, in its sole discretion, deems suitable for consideration. Number 3, staff will schedule a new business item on its May 17th, 2022 regular council meeting, at which time council will vote on vacancy appointments. The applicant selected to fill former councilmember Gremmel's vacancy will serve the rest of her term through January 7, 2025. The applicant selected to fill former councilmember Biggs' vacancy will serve through the next regularly scheduled election or until such time as a person is elected for such vacancy as the law permits through the end of the original term to January 7th, 2025. And number 4, staff shall also place on the May 17th, 2022 regular council agenda a swearing-in ceremony for the 2 vacancies immediately after council has voted on the appointments.
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call?
Councilmember Nesser?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rizzi?
I don't have any questions for our attorney, so I'm going to vote yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
All right, motion passes, Your Honor.
Okay, selection of meeting dates, times, and locations. Do I have a motion on upcoming council dates?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move to have an executive session at 6 p.m. for Monday, April 18th, and an executive session at 6 p.m. for Tuesday, April 19th, in the City Council Conference Room located at 300 East Superstition Boulevard in Apache Junction, Arizona, and other meetings scheduled if necessary.
Second.
Moved and seconded, roll call?
Councilmember Schroeder?
Yes.
Councilmember Nesser?
Yes.
Councilmember Evans?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Rizzi?
Yes.
Mayor Wilson?
Yes.
Motion passes, Your Honor.
Okay. And this is call to the public. It's a time the public to express their requests, communications, comments, and suggestions. Each speaker must have already filled out the request to speak form and hand it to the city clerk before the end of the city manager's report. All issues shall be presented in a professional manner without personal attacks. Under the open meeting law, the council cannot engage in discussion on issues presented, but may respond to criticism, may direct staff to follow up with the speaker directly, or place this matter on a future agenda for the council discussion. There is a 3-minute limit for each speaker. And I've got 3 speakers here, so Mr. Darrell Cross.
Say that 3 times fast, Mayor.
Yes.
3-minute limit.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, staff. My name's Darrell Cross, 1018 North Acacia Road, Apache Junction. On tonight's consent agenda, there's several different intergovernmental or government agreements for road improvements. And what I did notice is there seems to be a little bit of lacking when regarding the new sidewalks and bike paths that they're putting in, specifically like Idaho, from Teepee north to McKellips. And at one point in time, it was talked about in the general plan that that was supposed to be reserved for horse properties and whatnot. And I guess what I'm saying is as we move forward in developing our city north of Teepee, that we should consider putting in horse paths or multi-user trail paths, similar to what the developer has proposed for the area in front of Royal Palm and Superstition. It only makes sense. So moving forward, I'd like to see that kind of stuff proposed and put in. Thank you.
Donna Carr.
Hi, I'm Donna Carr. I'm an Apache Junction resident. I have a question, but I'm not sure if it's really a question that's going to be answered, but this is for the public as well as the city council. I know there's a guy from the Hitchin Post who's running for mayor against Wilson, and I know he's been butting heads with the code compliance as far as getting things taken care of on his business. I don't know what's going on there. I don't care what's going on there. But the question I have is this, is if he does end up becoming mayor at some point, does this give him a backdoor to get things accomplished for his business? That's the question I have, because, I mean, Larry, the code compliance dude, when he was here, and you guys were given that land from the guy that, I guess he was from Germany, you were given 2 1/3 acres. And Larry says, well, I know it takes 1 1/4 acres for it to be horse property, but what we can do is we can split that 2 1/3 acres, and I know it's not 1 1/4 acres for each property, but we can do it and then switch it back after we sell it. Well, yeah, that would make the city more money, so how fair is that to everybody else? So I guess I'm just wondering about the same thing gonna happen if somebody else takes over. Thanks.
Mr. Schroeder.
Joe Schroeder, 2444 West Virginia Street, again. So I have several things, so pay attention. Move on. So Donna's right. Code enforcement is very non-equal, okay? Seems like everybody has rights except for me, okay? So nobody on the council is a code enforcement officer, right? Right? Good, stay out. Our managers are not code enforcement officers. Stay out. They have a conflict of interest. They really need to stay out of there. We hired these people to do their job. They're not doing their job because, what? It's illegal to tell somebody that they can't do their job especially when it comes to code enforcement officers. And they were told not to do specific parts of their job. That is a direct quote. So I have statutes, criminal statutes ready for Mr. Busby and Rudy. They're coming. Now, I talked to Stephen Herron with Republic.
It's not name personal.
Stephen Herron,
Stop.
I just wanted to say who I talked to. He's a representative.
Okay, just stop.
We can adjourn.
Okay?
I have to identify who.
That's all right. Sit down, please.
Huh?
Sit down. Sit down. Yeah, I said, don't speak personal.
I'm
Make
not.
personal.
I'm
Yes, you are.
referring it to
Sit
our
down.
public service.
Sit down.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, you know, you're wrong.
Thank you.
And our attorney should be telling you you're wrong.
Anyone else want to make a comment?
Can I just respond? Can I respond to a comment? Just to make it clear, city council members we have to follow the codes, and I've been in violation myself, and we don't get a free pass being on the city council, excuse me, this is my moment. I'm responding to Ms. Carr, and I'm letting her know that council members don't get free passes when it comes to code compliance. We are equal to every other citizen here, and we have to follow those laws.
And neither does the mayor. Anyone else?
I don't either.
Okay. I adjourn the meeting.